So guys, the LeetCode question that we are going to solve today is this majority element second, and this question is super important because this has been asked in so many companies like Amazon, Nagarro, Dshaw, Atlassian, Microsoft, Genpact, Morgan Stanley, Adobe, Ecolite. And if you have watched the previous reel on majority element first, then you are already ahead because all the approaches are almost the same, just a little twist in the logic this time. So let's break it down. The question says that we are given an array of integer and our task is to return all those elements that are appearing more than n by 3 times. In the previous question, we were returning all the elements that were appearing more than n by 2, but here we are returning all those elements that are appearing more than n by 3. Now let's see how to do that. So the first approach is going to be the extreme brute force approach, where we will be using two loops and counting the frequency of every element one by one. And if it is greater than n by 3, we will add it to the answer. So the same thing we have done here in the code. We have a list here. We are counting the frequency of every element one by one using two loops, and if it is greater than n by 3, then we are simply adding it to the answer. But here we have a condition here that if the element is already present in the list, then we are simply skipping that. Okay, now let's see the second approach. The second approach is also going to be the same as before. We will be using a hash map here to count and store the frequency of every element, and if it is greater than n by 3, then we will simply add it to the answer. So the same thing we have done here in the code. We have a list here and a hash map. We are traversing the array, and while traversing, we are storing and counting the frequency of every element to the map, and if it is greater than n by 3, we will add it to the answer. But make sure that the list does not contain that element. If list is already having that element, we are simply skipping that. Okay, now let's come on to the third approach. The third approach is also going to be the same, but there will be a little change in the code this time, because in the previous question we have to return all the elements that was appearing more than n by 2 times, but in this question we need to return all those elements that are appearing more than n by 3 times. So let's take the same example. If the size of an array is 10 and I need to return all those elements that are appearing more than n by 3 times, so what will happen? More than 10 by 3 means more than 3 times, means at least 4 times. So these 4 places will occupy by the first element, these 4 places will occupy by the second element. Now there is no space for any other element that can occupy the rest of the spaces that is more than n by 3. So it means if we need to return all those elements that are appearing more than n by 3 times, then there can be at most 2 possible answers. So whatever the conditions we have written for the majority element first, we will use those conditions this time for 2 elements, element 1 and element 2, like this. Here we have 2 counters, 2 element 1 and 2 element 2, and just a simple change in the code, that is we are maintaining the unique elements in this element 1 and element 2 with this condition. Nums, if the current element is not equal to the element 2, then only we are adding that element in first element. If the current element is not equal to the first element, then only we are adding that element to the second element, right? So that's how we are maintaining the unique element in both these element 1 and element 2, and all the conditions are same. And if you want the dry run of this code, I will suggest you please check out the previous reel. I have explained the complete logic in detail. Okay, and I hope you got the logic now, and if you did, make sure to share this reel with your friends, and I will see you in the next video with another DSA concept.